Nearly 49 million people across the UK have had at least their first dose of the COVID vaccine. But it seems among football's elite, many are refusing to get off the sidelines. Almost two-thirds of top-flight players are reportedly yet to be fully vaccinated against coronavirus, with many refusing the jab altogether. Football managers, governing bodies and even Health Secretary Unjabbed, who said reports of 5 England players refusing the jab are disappointing, have weighed in on the issue. And this week it was revealed the Premier League is debating whether to reward clubs with high vaccine take-up. The furore has heaped pressure on players to reveal what I think should be a private medical choice. Ex-Chelsea ace Tammy Abraham yesterday became the first England player to announce he has been vaccinated after Republic of Ireland and West Bromford. Callum Robinson confirmed on Tuesday he hasn't received the jab after twice testing positive.
What's your personal choice, Callum? Have you decided to get vaccinated?
I haven't been vaccinated yet, no. So that's my choice at this moment in time.
So people might think that's unusual given your own personal health experiences recently. Yeah,
of course. As I said, it's obviously annoying that I've caught it twice, but I haven't been vaccinated. Further down the line, I could change my mind and want to do it, but at this moment in time, I haven't been vaccinated, no.
So are unjabbed footballers going to lead to a crisis in the sport? Joining me now, we have former England manager Sam Allardyce, who also used to manage Callum Robinson, ex-England footballer Luther Blissett, TV personality and wag Nicola McLean, and social commentator Mo Lovett. So, Sam Allardyce, I thought Callum Robinson put forward a very articulate response there. Personally, I feel he was really put on the spot. How do you feel about his decision to remain unjabbed?
In all honesty, Dan, I was surprised. I think I was also more surprised that so many footballers haven't had the jab based on the closeness that a football club brings on a day-to-day basis. And having suffered last season's training programme when you are trying to get the best out of the team, and what you have to cope with and what you have to suffer with in terms of isolation, masks, getting jabbed, not getting jabbed or getting jabbed, you had to be in a position where it was very, very difficult to work to your 100%. So when this jab came about, which was a miraculous discovery in such a short period of time, then you are not just protecting yourself. You may have a choice yourself, of course you do, but it's the broader base on the people that you're coming in contact with as a football club particularly, never mind your family, that is the problem. And there are many senior members of training staff in a football club, in a close-knit football club at the training ground, that can be very vulnerable and come into contact with somebody that is carrying COVID that may recover quite quickly, but may cause them a massive, massive problem. And I think that for me, I've had the jab, couldn't wait to get it. And I've had COVID and I had it particularly badly. So I would always encourage anybody that hasn't had it to have it.
Luther Blissett, you agree, I believe. You think the England footballers who remain unjabbed are being a little bit selfish?
Well, my thought on that is you've got to look at the wider thing, and Sam alluded to it there. It's the other people, it's the kids, your own kids or other people's kids that you come in contact with that you can maybe pass it on to. And that is very, very important. I think I still wear a mask when I go into public places because I feel I'm protecting other people. I've had the jab myself, I've had the 2 jabs, and I just feel that if you're able to have it, then why not? But if it's your choice not to, then you have to take whatever precautions it need be so you can keep yourself safe, but more to the point, keep others safe and stop maybe spreading that around, which is difficult.
Nicola McLean, you say this is their personal choice. We should just butt out.
Oh, 100%. And having the jab doesn't stop you getting COVID or passing it on. So I don't see the argument. I agree that if you want to have it done, I've been double jabbed. I really wish I wasn't. I really did.
Oh, really? So you felt pressured, Nicola?
Yeah, I did feel pressured, and I had COVID before I had the jab, and I had COVID after, and COVID was much worse after I'd been jabbed. So, I really did feel pressure. My children won't be getting vaccinated. I'm not an anti-vaccinator. My kids have had all the vaccines. This is still in trial. Why should a fit young footballer put something in his body that is still in trial? I don't understand the logic. I really don't. I really don't like to disagree with Sam because I think he's a legend, but I just disagree. I just think it's,
Sam,
it is in trial.
let me bring Sam back in. Sam, how would you respond to Nicola on that?
Dan, you've just said we've had 49 million people jabbed, 49 million people, and even though you may call it a trial basis, what real problems have we had apart from the scaremongers? Was it a blood clot? Well, you can get a blood clot flying on the plane. So, that this jab is a miraculous piece of work done by all the scientists throughout the world to give us the right to go out. Yes, you maybe have the right not to have the jab. That's your choice. But it gives the right to go out and ultimately, in the end, perhaps, or stop wearing masks, social distancing, washing our hands day in and day out, become obsessive about it, become claustrophobic, become anxiety, about mental problems. We're all trying to overcome not just the COVID virus, but we're overcome the anxiety it's causing for everybody, the lack of treatment in the NHS hospitals, the lack of the fact that operations have to be put back. So surely, if we're helping along the way by taking the jab, we're almost in a position now where we have to have a booster jab. Winter's coming. What will it cost again? And I might be wrong here because I haven't got the science behind it. But most people who are dying now that I'm hearing on the news, and I can't trust the news, don't get me wrong, but most people who are dying in hospitals are the ones who haven't had a jab. Haven't had the jab, not the ones who have.
That is true. So let me bring Mo Loverton now. Mo, you say actually footballers should not feel under any sort of threat to lose their careers, to not be able to play if they remain unvaccinated. Why?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think I'm very troubled by how tribal this has become. We had the mask wars and now we're having the vaccine wars where you are having... It's a little bit like cancel culture in a sense. It's like the media picking up, asking people their private medical status, whether or not they've been vaccinated or unvaccinated, and whether they're unvaccinated. And it creates a kind of two-tier system. And it is essentially a matter of personal choice. Now, Sam said something very important at the beginning. He said he would encourage people to have the vaccine. My dad is double jabbed and he's just had COVID. He's over 70 and thankfully his symptoms were very mild and that was a choice he made, and I'm very much in favour of the vaccine. I think it's it saved him from becoming seriously ill. But when it comes to your own medical history, you should not be, asked to reveal that. I mean, where does that end? Are you going to ask people what kind of medication they're on? Or,
or their STD status.
Exactly,
That might rule a few footballers out
we have the same thing with HIV and AIDS. Gay people were being asked their state, their health status then. It's a deeply authoritarian way of dealing with trying to encourage people to have the vaccine. Now, the footballers are together now. That they'll be in a COVID bubble when the England players play abroad. They're in the dressing room. They are in close contact. But let's not forget we've had 18 months where people have been separated, isolated, locked down at home, and all sorts of very strange kind of ideas happen when you're sitting on your own inside your own head. So I think we can encourage people to have the vaccine, but never ever should we make it mandatory.
Okay. Although what's interesting, Luther Blissett, is it feels like a lot of this decision has actually been made in the dressing room. There's actually, according to the reports, a lot of discussion amongst the footballers at the clubs, and they're making decisions as a block. Do you think this risks actually tearing the team apart if you're going to have the people who don't want the jab and who do want the jab disagreeing about it?
It does do. You go back to when, players taking a knee. I'm not having that every player wanted to do that. So, yes, there would have been some that don't want to, but to be part of that team and to keep that spirit and keep the right, they said, we will take part in it in some way to show support for it. And I think this is exactly the same way. Players will get together, they'll talk about it because they have responsibilities and they do care about others. And so they have those conversations to shall we, shan't we? And the greater number will say, yes, we will. And if we always be one or two that says they won't. But you don't push them aside. You keep them with you and you make sure that they do everything they can to limit the chances of passing this on to anybody else. And, the self-testing that, I know they do this at football club, and Sam has been right involved in a lot of it more than I have. But the players do this, I think, 2-3 times a week they do this. So they're in a good position to say, to protect others anyway, but they still have to be mindful when they go out into the public or go out in what they do to vulnerable people, because they are still very dangerous if they have to bring it to those areas.
I guess, Nicola, what I've found a bit offensive is the way that the media coverage has sort of immediately attacked these footballers as being a little bit stupid. And I don't think that is the case. They're trying to say, they are all believing that Bill Gates is microchipping them. And actually, there are a lot of physically active, very healthy young sports people who don't want to have the vaccine because they don't think they need it, given they're healthy and many of them have natural immunity. So this idea that they're buying into all of the conspiracy theories, I think that's a bit dismissive, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I don't buy into any conspiracy theories. I've seen that Harry Maguire's, I'm sure it's Harry Maguire's girlfriend. Or
John Stone. John Stone's girlfriend.
John Stone's girlfriend. She insted something and the press picked up on that. And he was ridiculed for that, even though it wasn't his Insta post. And it's just like, we're going crazy. It's people's choice. This is a choice. And I respect anyone's choice to have it or not have it. As I say, I felt pressured into having it. I've had it. My husband's had it. He wanted to have it to travel. I won't be getting my kids vaccinated, and I certainly wouldn't be not going to see it. I love football. I wouldn't be going not to see England on Tuesday because a couple of the lads are not vaccinated. I think it's a personal choice, and I really think that it's commendable to come out and say, I haven't been jabbed, and this is my reason why, and that's the choice.
Mo, what I think is really interesting, but also, I guess, slightly worrying, is that we are starting now as a society to encourage this division. And actually, what I find particularly weird is that the division and the shaming of these people doesn't actually make them have any extra desire to get the vaccine. If anything, it makes them more entrenched in their initial position.
I mean, Dan, if you think about the amount of metaphors that come from sport that are about teamwork and, comradeship and all of that sort of thing, the idea that this kind of non-vaccinated and vaccinated kind of turf war is going to kind of implicate sports and drive a wedge between players on the same team, I think is really deeply worrying. What's happened, I think, in the culture wars there and throughout the COVID pandemic is that we've seen politics kind of being replaced by this kind of moralising, the good versus the bad decision, and then that's infiltrated sport. I mean, we've already talked about taking the knee. That was a matter of personal conscience whether you wanted to do this. This is a matter of personal choice over your own body's autonomy. And the fact that this is sort of seeping into what should be, for most people, watching sport, playing sport, is about coming together and doing something fun together. The fact that all of this stuff is infiltrating things that are good about society really bothers me, and it's just that kind of underlying authoritarianism and kind of witch hunt aspect of it. Andrew Doyle talked about the yellow badges in Germany, of all places, to put yellow badges on people. We need to remember that we are a liberal, free country and get back to leaving people to free choice.
But obviously there is an opportunity to encourage these footballers. So Sam Allardyce, you're obviously one of our most respected football managers in history. Can I just get you to give a final word to any unvaccinated players? What would be your message to them if you were managing them now? What would you say to them to encourage them to get the jab?
I would say to anybody really that the first was a personal experience of having COVID, which was particularly traumatic towards myself and my family, and then of course thinking about the long-term prospects of what that gives. I mean, luckily I didn't have long COVID like a lot of people have got, and quite a few footballers have had since it's come out. And then the responsibility to your loved ones who are much older than you are. And while the vaccination doesn't eradicate the passing on of COVID, it's obviously reducing the effect. So I think eventually we'll all be taking the COVID jab, eventually like we take the flu jab. But yet again, not everybody takes the flu jab, and we still probably, at this moment in time, get as many people dying of flu than we do of COVID at this moment in time. So it is a personal choice in the end. And if you don't take it, it's one you live with. But if you imagine what you feel like if you pass it on to your grandma or your granddad and they die, how would you feel about not having it then?
Lovely to hear the words of wisdom from former England manager Sam Allardyce. Also, thank you so much to former legendary England footballer Luther Blissett, the TV personality and wag Nicola McLean, and the brilliant social commentator Mo Lovett. Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.